live podcast. We've been getting great comments from you guys all over the social media saying that you like this format, they like us being live, like us talking to you in real time. So we'll be keeping this format and going forward with it. Now, obviously, it's been a big week for Barca. We finally played that Osasuna game, the delayed one, and it turned out really well for us, which is always great. But then there were not so great stuff after that as well, because Osasuna then filed a report against us saying that we did stuff that was illegal. So we'll discuss that too, and the potential of actually us not getting the win and the 3 points because we played Indigo and we were not supposed to play Indigo. So we'll talk about that. We'll take some questions from you guys if you have any. Those are always welcome. And then obviously there were lots of good player performances and some rotations. Obviously, one injury that was kind of expected at this point, unfortunately. But we'll discuss all of that and more. Before we go deeper into it, before you guys start asking the questions as well, Dev, how was the game for you? How was the whole week for you? Anything you want to start with
The
specifically?
game was amazing. I think, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the Inigo incident, but I think game, from what Hansi Flick wanted, in terms of the players being utilized, or we obviously wanted Gavi to hit some sort of form, and we saw that in spades. So I think getting key people rested, well, not rested, but I mean Rafinha wasn't there, Lewandowski was rested, so at least the key got a break. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we still could get the job done. Ferran played, as usual, a very, very important role in that. Pedri was amazing. Frankie de Jong was amazing. So I think a lot of those things came right. At the same time, we could rest a few players and rotate and still get the win against Osasuna. Though it has to be said that Uncle Vladimir and Brian Zaragoza were not playing for them. So that obviously made things easier. But overall, I think just the fluidity in the simplicity in which they played and controlled, it was worth watching. It was not just winning; it was how we played and how we
Yeah.
won. So that was really nice. So yeah, game amazing. The Osasuna complain. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to know what happens out of that. Um, but it does have ramifications in terms of if the result doesn't go our way, what happens. Um, then there's obviously almost injury that we need to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
because I think he's out for about 2 3 weeks. So what does that mean? So yeah, lots to pick up and lots to unpack. And I think, is there anything else that we are talking this week, Dom, apart from the game?
I don't think so. I think this week we have a new game tomorrow again, which is the packed schedule continues. Every 3 games, guys, we'll be here discussing the games with you live and reviewing them and reviewing what's happening out there in the world of Barcelona. But this is the most important and the most difficult stretch of the season, because the games keep piling on. We keep losing players. We keep getting into these difficult and tricky situations because the league just doesn't like us, apparently, which is why I'm kind of afraid of, not afraid, but I'm kind of at an unease with this Osasuna complaint, because if there was a time or a club that would get damaged by something like this, it would be Barcelona, because the league just doesn't ever do things in our favor, right? It just feels that way lately, right? But as Auriel is saying in the comments, there's no actual backing for this complaint to go through. So hopefully it doesn't go through. I mean, it is a bit weird. Why would the league even allow us to take Inigo with us in the squad right ahead of the game if it was illegal to play him? Although, to be fair, I wasn't really even aware of the rule that he's not allowed to play
Yeah.
if he's been called. Yeah, if he's been pulled from the national team. That was news to me as well. But then again, I'm not really well versed into these things in the first place, so maybe I just missed that one. But yeah, the game was absolutely fantastic. I mean, we could have scored even more. We create so much. We create so many chances, and the XG would say, the expected goals would say that we are overperforming, and we are. We are. I think we're scoring a lot of these screamers, winning a million shots, especially Rafinha and Lamine. They scored the most unlikely goals ever. But at the same time, we create so many chances, so many opportunities that don't really result in shots. And if a chance doesn't result in a shot, but it was still a great chance overall, the XG won't recognize it as such, right? So it won't show in the data, but it was still there. So I think that we as a whole create so many different scenarios, different environment for us to actually be in a position to score, but we do fail to materialize that sometimes. So I think that the likes of Pedri and Lamine should be on triple digits when it comes to assists and just chances created. It is very, very impressive. And the way that we dismantled Osasuna was absolutely ridiculous. They did play without Budimir in the first half, so that was the big thing as well. Once he came in, we did lose a bit of control as well in the second half. But I think at that point we were already kind of cruising and trying to rotate some players as well. So I think from that perspective, there's nothing much to complain in this game. It was an all around great performance, guys. As Dev said, it was very fluid, and I did like the return of the box midfield because in this scenario we had four players in midfield who were so flexible and show us so much variety. They interchange positions almost seamlessly, right? So if Gavi drops deeper, Pedri goes higher. If Pedri is deeper, Gavi is higher. If someone replaces the Jong can go up forward. So it was players covering for each other at all times and filling each other's roles effortlessly, seamlessly, right? So I think from that perspective, this is a good setup, and I like the look of this setup. We haven't seen it before under Hansi Flick because Gavi, when he plays, he usually plays as a 10, which we know is not really ideal. But now, as the left winger, even though he's not a winger, he still was more central. He was still more of a midfielder. In On paper, he was a winger, but in reality, he was more of a midfielder anyway. So I think this setup is something that can be explored a bit more, Dev. Um, but should we start with the players specific individually, or is there something else that you want to start with first?
No, I think this is a good summary. So let's go with that. I think, but we have a tough run of games. I think the
Yeah.
next few weeks. I think if we can touch upon those, and that'll be good. Let's also keep some time on the legalities of the Osasuna thing,
Yeah.
because what I did, I not that I'm a legal expert at all, I'm not, and more so about FIFA laws or La Liga laws, but at least just by reading media, just try to compare two sides and see where the thing lies, and
Mhm.
now that we'll know, we'll get to know in a few days, and so let's keep some time. But yeah, let's start with a match. Maybe dive deep into maybe players like Pedri and Gavi, or maybe whoever we feel
Okay.
like, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think we can start with Gavi. I mean, Pedri was excellent. Pedri is Pedri. He gets a standing ovation every single game. But by this point, it's normal. It's just normal to get a standing ovation. It's normal for him to be the man of the match, which he was. Even when he's See, I think Pedri will always be able to do these little things that he does, like the retention of the ball and keeping the play ticking. That's what he can do at all times, right? This is so that's the what do you how do you call it? It's kind of he's so good, so successful that we're now looking at things, the little things that he normally does, and we're like, wow, right? So he now that's the benchmark. That's the new normal. That should be the new normal for Pedri. Ball retention, even chance creation, and just keeping the tempo. That should be the new normal. Now, can Pedri push onto new heights? Can he push and do things even more? That's the thing that we have to watch out for now because I think he can. I think this performance, while it was astronomical, I think Pedri can even do even more. But we'll see. Now, Gavi is a more interesting case because we've been very vocal about Gavi being misplayed, misutilized, Gavi not being Gavi 100%, which was completely fair to him because you can't expect it. But this was more of the old Gavi that I feel like, and I'm sure the guys will in the comments will agree as well because now we saw him more involved. We saw him in this role where he can actually influence the play outside of being a moments player. And when Gavi is more than a moments player, Gavi's attributes start to shine a lot more. So I think this is the way to do that. And the left winger position, intriguingly, is much less about being a wide presence, but much more about being a player who's away from the congested areas, but still in heavy contact with the ball. So I think from that perspective, this was I don't want to say an ideal position for him, but it was a more appropriate position for him compared to the number 10 role that we usually get. And yes, the actions on the pitch will show us that as well. Yes, it's mostly in the left half space. And if you remember when we talked about Pedri and Gavi way back in the day, when Gavi was still 100% Gavi, we said both of them like the left half space. They both prefer to be in that left half space. And that's why Gavi was often brushed to the right side or the number 10 role because you can't take the left half space from Pedri because Pedri is at his best there and you want your best players in the best environments. But this role enabled both of those players to be in similar zones, not the same zones at all times, but similar zones, and also zones that suit them as players. So yeah, let's you can talk us through some of the stats there. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it across, just for the Osasuna game, just the stats for Gavi and the other players as well. But if you look into it, I mean, passing, obviously accuracy of it's 94%. In overall, first half and second half, hardly anything to break a sweat. Back in his position, he was good. Then look at the defensive duels won, 80% compared to 64 on the offensive side. Does it make a huge lot difference? No, but it shows his comfort in a particular position, and that's something that we have been talking for a long time. Look at the number of long passes that are accurate, the number of passes in the final third that he played. So he is a player who can be comfortable in that position, but still connect the defense with the attack.
Yeah,
And he's comfortable doing that, which is, I feel, his strength. So probably if he's used in that manner, his utility to the team will be a lot more than when he's used in a much more advanced position that we have seen him after he came back from the injury. Now, if you look at
yeah,
the action, you can see where he thrives first half and second half. Uh, Absolute, and you talked about the left side, so yes, but absolute live wire. Look at the number of passes, the combination play, and so on and so forth. So his accuracy, and the mix between the long passes and the short passes, his ability to find teammates, beat the press, connect, stitch people, and then between him and Frankie, they really had a good time, and they could feed the forward line, even though it was a depleted forward line from that perspective. And we could have scored a lot more goals. That's the truth of it. We didn't, but we could have easily scored about another two or three if on the right day and so on. And here's the pass distribution. So you can see with Pedri 8, Inigo Martinez 12, Alejandro Fermin. So overall 68 passes. He's connected across the team, and you can see
mhm,
how that comes through. And then again,
yeah,
while he's doing that, look at the number of duels he's taking on. He's at least one, two, three, like 8 players, right? So he's involved in the thick of it. I think this was the first, not the first, but one of the games where we saw kind of the Gavi of the old, and that would
yeah.
make a lot of people, a lot of fans very happy. But again, it's a positional thing, and I don't know, like when everybody's back, would they put him back there, or he's again starting from the bench, or what have you. So those are questions to be asked, to be asked, Dom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when everyone's fit and when everyone is available, I don't think he starts right now at the moment. Well, depends on Olmo, right? Olmo is the big question mark here. How often do we get Olmo? Because as things currently stand, we get Olmo for a couple of weeks every month or so. So at the moment that third spot is up for grabs, but at the same time, not every player is well suited to that role. I mean, Gavi in that role, should he be the preferred option? I mean, based on player quality overall, he should be the guy right after Olmo. He should be Pedri, Frankie, Olmo, and then potentially Gavi. However, seeing how Gavi's two best positions or deeper positions are occupied by players who are undroppable at the moment, that leaves only the third position for him to fill. But that third position reduces Gavi to something that he is really not, right? It turns Gavi into a player that's just nowhere near as effective as he can be. So to me, that third spot should be Furman's. Ahead of Gavi, unless we're playing without a 10. If we're playing with a 4-3-3 with two number eights and a single pivot that kind of transforms into double pivot depending on the context, then yes, Gavi can have a much bigger role. But then if it's a strict number 10 role for the third midfielder, then it should be Furman, in my opinion. Because Furman, to me, he's been the big surprise, actually, to be honest with you, because he's been showing the usual stuff that he shows, like the great ball striking, the great movement, just being an output player and being comfortable being that moments player that Olmo is also comfortable with. But then when he was deeper in tight spaces, he showed technical superiority and real good quality, even in his passing and control. And to me, that was the surprise. Not that he never had it. I said that on Twitter as well. He used to have that as well back in his La Masia days, but his current role doesn't really put a spotlight on those qualities at all, right? But now, even when he's deeper, he's reminding us, okay, I am much more technical than people give me credit, and he's been a big surprise to me. So I think in the number 10 role, I think he edges Gavi out. If we're playing with three midfielders as number 8, then Gavi should play. If we're playing with a 10, then Thurman should, in my opinion, even get the nod ahead of the current Gavi, which might not appeal to everyone, but I think at the moment that would be my guess, Dev.
No, I mean the opinions will vary, of course. But to your point, what I would agree is that Furman's adaptability has been quite interesting to see, because he isn't playing the role that he was playing on Xavi. Flick doesn't give him that same kind of the role to play, but whenever he's got the chance, he's delivered within the construct of that role, or what he's supposed to do, and so on and so forth. So I would kind of agree with you on that. But I do want to bring attention to this comment from Ishiko, which is Gravi started as the winger, then changed to a 10, and then changed to a pivot. And we are seeing this consistently, right? Positions changing very fluidly throughout the game.
Yeah.
Not just for players, but overall formations. There's hardly any rigidity. It's all situational, and so on. In a world like this, right, where let's hope that this is a trend that will continue for a while. Where do you see is this is pivot where Gavi plays, but can also, take on the role of a winger, or take on the role of a 10 for a while, depending on whether the team has injuries or what have you, or how they want to play at a particular juncture of that game. What's your take on this? Because there's a lot of discussion happening around, a so-called lack of tactics, or maybe that's the tactics, right? There's a lot of I have mixed opinions about it, but want to hear your point of view.
Uh, I don't think there's no tactics. I think that is a bit overstated, because first of all, we don't have access to whatever happens in training. We don't have access to the locker room situation, so we don't know what Flex instructions are. We can only guess what they are. We can guess, okay, this to us, we don't really see many patterns. We don't see something that we can concretely analyze, and then we jump to the conclusion, okay, there's no tactics. But how do we know that? How can we say that, okay, Flick is just not giving them any instructions? I would say at the very least, even if we go with the notion that there's little tactics involved, which I don't think is true, at the very least, Barcelona are creating an environment in which the players are expressing what they are expressing, right? Because the trick of the coach is to actually create an environment in which your players can show their strengths and you can mask their flaws. And at the moment, this is what's happening for Barcelona. And I think to say that there's nothing, no tactics or no setup to this would be wrong in my opinion. So I would say that yes, Flick has created, because if there was no tactics, why did Xavi fail, quote unquote, and why is Flick now so successful? What's the difference between, because the team is almost the same. And if you were to say, okay, Flick is just letting these kids play and they're winning everything. So I mean, what's the difference? Then Xavi could have won the same thing, or played the same way, because it's players are the same, but something has changed, right? So I think there is instruction involved. There's a setup. There's a structure there. How much we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't have access to it. But I would say that there's definitely instructions, or at least an attempt to create a suitable environment for these players to express themselves, and then from that point, again, we can't say, but from that point, then we can say, okay, our players are good at what they do, and if you give them that environment, they will do the rest. Maybe that is also the case, but I don't think there's no tactics. To me, that just, I don't know, just a bit of a stretch at the moment.
All right, yeah, I would agree. Now, let's talk about another player. Is there another player that you want to analyze? Whether it's Balde, whether it's Fermin, whether it's is there one more before we see the game overall, or do we cut back to the game?
We can do the game. I mean, most players did well. I mean, we can talk about Frankie de Jong as well, because he was fantastic. I
That's
think
fantastic. Yeah.
now, yeah, in the second half when we lost Frankie de Jong, because he
Let's do
was,
Frankie. We
let's do
have
Frankie.
often criticized Frankie, so when he's doing well, we should be talking about that for sure.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
let me pull
I
up
think,
Frankie's stats
yeah,
while we get ready. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, pull them up, because I mean he played only one half, and the difference between the first half being a dominant display and the second half being a bit shaky and uncontrolled is the absence of Frankie. It's not just that, of course, it's not one factor that completely ruined everything, but at the same time, I think losing Frankie means so much. At the moment, Pedri, Frankie is the only one that chats to Pedri in terms of quality in our midfield. He is just irreplaceable at this moment, and you can see, guys, we love Casero on this channel, and we've done countless reports on Casero. But the difference between Frankie and Casero is at this moment is quite big. And let's see if the data actually confirms the eye test, which often it doesn't in case of pivots, because pivots do well. I mean, Frankie is a pivot still, not a traditional one, but he still operates in deeper areas, and his task is not often seen as much in the data. But I'm really curious to see what the data says, Dev.
Yeah, so if you look into it, like accuracy, again, high level of accuracy, but look at the lateral back or forward, wherever it is, like he's got obviously the accuracy that helps for sure. It's not that he's doing a lot of it, but the ones that he are doing, it's helping the game evolve, and that is more visible from the pass map here if you can look into it, or his zone of influence, right
Yeah,
from uh, like barring the two boxes, I mean, he's everywhere. And that's
yeah,
his ability, right? Of his, that's what we often say, that Frankie loves to run with the ball or what have you. But when he uses that in intelligence and combines well with highly technical players like Pedri, I would say even Fermin and Gavi, what happens is that the team play becomes much more fluid, and there are a lot of chances that we create, per se. And then look at the kind of passes, right?
yeah.
Look at the duels, look at the distribution of the passes, like look at the zone, right? So I would say that's where Casado still needs probably a little bit of time to get to that level, or maybe he'll never be that player. Maybe he's a lot more defensively suited, as I've often discussed. Maybe they're two different players altogether. For different game states. Now, can they come together as a double pivot or what? That's another discussion. But
Mhm.
this just tells you, like, again, look at the number of combinations, 49 across the board. Look at his combination with Balde on that flank, with Garcia and Inigo in defense. So just managing that part and ensuring that the attack is maintained throughout. I think he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And you have to watch the game to understand the whole impact of it. The data so won't tell you much. But yeah, that would be my take, Dom.
Yeah, he's changed. I think we're seeing a very different
Yeah.
Frankie. He still quote unquote hogs the ball. He still does that, but he's much more controlled. That he's much more looking to pass the ball, shield the ball, retain control, and actually dictate the tempo with his passing rather than being the disruptor and constant aggressor with his running. So I think in that perspective, he is a different kind of player now. He's evolved, but also he's adapted to the needs of the team. And if you see the connections, there's a reason why he's had so many connections with the back line, because he was not as aggressive as Frankie usually is. He still threads those passes. He does the combination play up high when he goes higher. He can still do that. He's a very creative player, but at the same time, he's more concerned with keeping Barcelona ticking and stable, and that's why we see so many combinations with Eric Garcia, Inigo Martinez, Alejandro Balde, because he's actually being this type of player that we were screaming for such a long time, someone who enables Barcelona's players around him more than he's putting the spotlight on himself. Usually, Frankie wants the spotlight. He wants to be the player that is the hub of everything, and be the what should I call it? Be this player who just takes on everything, and is very aggressive and very dominant. But now he has a bit more of a secluded role, not less important, but just not one that is often in the spotlight. And I think that's what people have been screaming for years now. They weren't thinking to be this, and now he's being this. He's actually adapting to that role finally, and we'll see if that is the Frankie that ends up being the missing piece, or being this player that we always wanted him to be. At the moment, I think he's just irreplaceable in this midfield. I think he's just such a big presence, that he cannot be dropped alongside Pedri. Those are the two players that are now staple in our midfield, and his action's so high and up. So this big area of influence that you mentioned, that's because of the fluidity that we mentioned earlier. Because players were dropping, players were going up. There was constant interchange of positions, and I like that. There was dynamism, but there was also so much chemistry between those players, and that is one of the best signs out there for Barca. Yeah, overall, Frankie, I'm very happy with this.
Yeah, and Vanley, you're right. I mean, there's no question that there are tactics because, as Don said, like we saw the same team last year, and and almost I think everybody would agree that it was very frustrating and defeatist at times just to
Yeah,
watch and feel very, I would say the word demoralized. No shade on Javi; he's a great guy and he did his best that he could. But this team is not just playing football; it's playing attractive football. It's
yeah,
it's it's making people enjoy the game, so there's something that has happened. It's not just the players that okay, go and have a
exactly.
great time, and they're all going out and have a great time, and we've seen great games of football. I think there's much more to it. So yes, to your point, yes, there's absolutely tactics that are being
There,
utilized.
there must be, because if there wasn't any tactics, you just buy the best players and they win you everything.
That's
But
it.
that's not how football works. Yeah, so absolutely, there has to be something.
So yeah, those are valid pointers. We'll go back to the match stats after, but let's take a few questions because there are quite a
Hmm.
few thoughts on Fort not getting any minutes. I think Kunde rest needs. I would think that Frankie, like I
Yeah,
think Fix just doesn't trust him that much.
yeah,
And he's been very clear that at the business end of the season, he calls this the business end of the season. He's been very open and vocal. He's very clear and dogmatic that the best players will have to play. If
yeah,
somebody feels bad, they feel bad. He's not going to risk. He's going to go with the person he trusts the most. And we have seen enough of the season to know that he still probably doesn't trust Hector Ford that much. Same question with, I think, the second one, which is on Lamine. Yes, we often we are all asking the same question: why isn't Lamine being rested? But the thing is, we do not have somebody of his caliber to unlock those defense. He might not score many goals, which is the criticism against him, but
yeah,
purely there's not a single player like him in the team who can destabilize, open those channels, really cause fear. Because when there's Lamine, the opposition team is in fear. There are two people to manage him, and that fear is important for domination, whether Lamine scores goals or not. And then there is Lamine's defensive contribution. He's quite good at that. So
yeah,
when you take him off, we just don't have a player like him. We just
yeah,
don't. And at the business end of the season, um, Flick wants to win. Literally, there's no doubt he wants to win the treble. There's no question. He's not saying it, but he absolutely wants to win it. So I think, much as we say, I don't think we are going to see a lot of Hector Ford until his hands are completely forced.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think so. I think some players are just, if you take them off, the whole system kind of falls apart. Lamine being one of those players. But even when we are winning and we're cruising and we have a big enough cushion to actually rest. I mean, he's not rested now. Why does that happen? We can't say for sure. We can't. We don't know what Fleck is thinking, or why is he approaching this in this sense. But I would say that when you are such a good player as Lamine, as someone who's getting goat potential shouts, Ballon d'Or shouts, and how someone who's getting these generational talent shouts, those players tend to play like every minute of every game. I think that's just the treatment that you get, for better or worse. Now he's so young that this shouldn't be happening. We know this shouldn't be happening, and Flick is doing this against his better judgment, I would say, at this point. Because when you think about the Messis and the Neymars and Ronaldos of this sport, they don't get subbed off. Not really,
Neither do
right?
they want to get sucked off.
And exactly that. Lamine is visibly getting frustrated when he doesn't play, when he's not involved. And I think that he does have to mature a bit in this sense, because he has to think about his long term career over his current situation where he's on fire. Everyone loves him, everyone wants him to play, and he wants to play. He wants to be involved in everything. And every minute of every game, he wants to be there. Now, we know. Outside voice and opinion, we know that's not right. We know that at 17 years of age, you should not be playing as much without breaks. But in his head, I don't think he's realized that yet. He knows that that should maybe be the right thing to do, but he just doesn't. I don't know if he doesn't acknowledge it, but he just doesn't want it, right? And he has to mature in that sense. And Flick, I'm not sure. He just I don't know why he's not rotating him, to be honest. I think Flick has to put his foot down and say, look, I know you're having fun. I know you're the best player that we have on the pitch most of the games alongside Pedri. But listen, you're playing too much, and we have to be very careful with you. So if we're next time we're winning 3-0, 4-0, or whatever it is, just rest the boy. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
It's not
know.
that easy.
It is, but it is what it is. And I don't think Hansi Flick is a person who's very open to many points of view. I just think he's that kind of a guy. I think
That yeah, that's
he's
true.
this is the way I want to do it, and this is what how I'm going to do it. Right.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
whether you like it or not. That's just what comes with it. So yeah, it is a concern, and it will be incredibly difficult because in one of these, if Lamine gets injured or something happens, then obviously everybody will come at Flick with everything.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but so that's it's one of those conundrums that is there. Like we all understand it, we realize it, but we also realize that I don't think he trusts anybody else to play in this juncture of the season, especially for these games where one loss can actually
Yeah.
derail your entire season. Right.
Yeah.
So that's I think there's this balance. I don't know. And Flick obviously wants to win. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yep.
The
Absolutely.
final evolution of the Flick machine is Balde performing. I think he has improved. I mean, for me, compared to 6 months before, I think he's holding that for that half second extra. He is making some of those right decisions better than before. His ball, while not elite yet per se, but it has
Hmm.
become much better than before. I think the first goal with Osasuna that we saw. So he has improved by leaps and bounds. Has he become the finished piece? Probably no. But I don't have any doubt if that Flick stays for a couple of more years, the Alejandro Balde we will see after in a couple of years from now will be a terrifying proposition if he continues at this rate of growth over time for most defenses in the world, and he'll be among the best in the business because he'll be young. He'll have his whole career in front of him, and he'll be just peaking at the right time. So yeah.
Yeah, and this is also a part where Flick's tactics can actually be seen. I do agree because I clearly remember one sequence where you had Balde out wide. He was being marked by the opposition fullback, or so fullback, and then had Gavi just inside next to him, right in that left half space, and he was also being marked by one player. But then Gavi drops deeper into the pivot area. He drags that player with him, and in his place, Pedri immediately goes into his place, which is now empty. Which then alerts the fullback that was previously covering Balde, who moves into to cover Pedri now, and all of a sudden, what you get is a whole flank free for Balde, and then the ball goes back into Frankie, and Frankie plays the pass into Balde, who's free in time and space. So I think those rotations and the environment to make the players' strengths in the spotlight. That's what Flick is doing, right? So these tactics are enabling players to be free, to be expressive in their ability, and I think giving Balde this environment has definitely helped them. Now, also, we have spoken a lot about Balde on our blog on YouTube as well, where we talk about the differences in his positioning, movement, and how he does things, and how those things are affecting his final ball, which is improving, but also the environment again is helping Butler because he's now much closer to the box. He's much closer to key targets inside the area, and that makes his passes easier to execute because the distances are lesser and also the targets are closer, and he has more angles to exploit from those central areas. So I think again it's a combination of Flick creating the environment for him and also Balde maturing, as they've said, as a player, because we do see him a bit more patient in the build up. He still holds onto the ball a bit long because we saw that incredible run in Osasuna. He just blitzed through the whole midfield. He just went like half the pitch, and then he holds onto the ball for a second too long, and then he ends up losing it.
Lost it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But he still has that unstoppable force. His engine is always going to be there, right? At least for now. Before he gets a bit older, we'll see what happens then. But yes, he's been maturing and evolving as a player, both individually, but also the environment is right for him to actually achieve that, which is again down to Flick, I would say, and tactics.
Yeah, and as many of you are also mentioning, like we are giving examples of Liverpool, and this season's Liverpool, and many other seasons we have seen the same thing. It takes a week or a couple of games or 3 games, and then your season's done at this time because you just cannot pick it up again. So the margins of error are so small. Obviously, Flick doesn't want to lose the initiative. Like you could have seen his frustration when Danny Olmo got injured.
Yeah.
Never seen Flick react like that ever on television, but he was visibly angry that this has happened again, because obviously he's counting on him, for those games, and there are tough games that are coming up, and now almost out for about 3 weeks, and it's not really a like for like replacement for him. Yes, of course, we have other players who can come in and make sure things can happen, but what he does, there's hardly a player who can do that, right? So um, very much so. This is make or break. Obviously, it's a great season for Barca. Like, I still believe that even if we don't win in anything, this has been an incredible season for
Yeah.
Barca, and we should respect it like that, and we should enjoy it like that. Doesn't matter. Because who would have thought we would be playing like this, when the season started? I didn't, for sure, 100%, right? I had massive concerns. Many of us had massive concerns about whether Flick is the right coach. Today, we are all singing for Flick, but many of us didn't think that he was the right decision at all, right? So, um, irrespective of what happens, I think this season has been an incredible success. But
Hmm.
the fact is, in football, you don't win trophies, you win trophies, and that's it.
Yeah.
And to remember this team, or to get the funding that is required, or to keep that momentum, that excitement going, it's imperative that they win. That's needed for the players. It's needed for keeping the best talent. It's needed for keeping Flick. It's needed. So uh, the winning is necessary, and for that, there'll have to be tough choices to be made, and some we will like, some we will not like, and that's what's happening. But that's basically it. They just want to win, because after so much effort, if they don't win anything, that's just going to hurt real bad for a lot of the fan base, even though they have
Yeah.
been like incredible the entire season, right? Okay, so let's look into Balde needs the help from a winger because Rafinha. Yeah, sure, absolutely, and we will talk about, and Dom's been working on a series for, left backs, right backs, and wingers. That he just finished his series on strikers, so you should go check it out. But we are working on all of these. So yes, it might this is a topic that we will touch upon, because
Cool.
we've also discussed it individually amongst ourselves. So look out for that piece of content when it comes through. We are talking about transfers all the time. So yeah, we whether it's ambidextrous winger, right back, striker, defender. Um, what do you like? We've talked about it, but Dom, if you had like, yeah, $50,000, what are you buying?
$50,000. Yeah, I don't know.
Ah,
Sadly,
you would have more than that, to be honest with you.
yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, you can't get much quality because even the young prospects that we talked about there on the channel and on our blog, the striker prospects, those are all young players so far that we've analyzed who are not complete products, who need development, couple of years of hard work to get to elite status, and yet you cannot expect them to go for anything less than 50-60 million. And that's a very, that's the lowest that you can actually get them for. Likely that their clubs would demand even more. So in that perspective, there's no chance for us if we don't get much more money, which I don't think we will. At least not without massive sales. That is, I don't think we can actually buy elite players for all those positions. I think,
Not yet, not this season, unless
yeah.
we win Champions League and La Liga and Copa, and then the prize monies are big enough for us to take a commitment of that
Yeah,
size.
maybe that would be the idea, but then again, you can't guarantee any of that to happen, right? Even we are among the best teams right now, and we're in great form. We have great players. We have great overall play, but none of that guarantees you trophies just yet. So we have to calm down, be patient, and see where this team takes us. If it takes us the trophies, as they've said, that would be the gravy on top of a great season, of a great experience for both us and the players. But yes, I would. The only thing I would say is Barca cannot really afford to be a project for many years. They need palpable
Wins.
results. That they need trophies exactly. So maybe if you can go one season without a trophy at most, and then the next season you have to be ready to actually challenge and win some silverware. That's just the reality of being a titan of the industry like Barcelona, and a brand like Barcelona. So I think from that perspective, we need to win. But at the same time, if you want to win, you need players who can actually impact the right here and right now instead of being players for the future. So Barca needs more of those players. So I would say that we can't really afford to go for high potential but unfinished products across every position. You have to bring in reinforcement who can actually impact the present as well. So I would say if you're going for a project striker, then at least bring in a a well rounded up winger, or vice versa. So that's how I would go. I wouldn't go for two projects or three projects at the same time, because then they do give you a long term insurance, some sort of a long term insurance, but they don't give you enough right now. And Barca need both. That's the big reality of Barcelona, is that they need both. They need long term planning, but they need short term success as well at the same time. That's why it's tough being a Barcelona, because you need both. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. Okay, so none of our business, but what do you all think about Trent potentially joining Madrid and Romero to Atleti? I'll start with Romero to Atleti because I think that's absolutely very on brand. I think that'll be
Yeah.
amazing if they can get Romero. I think I think Simeone has this. I actually like this team that Atleti has created. Is really really good. And if you think about De Paul and Romero together in that defense midfield combination, it'll be amazing for Atleti. Trent, incredibly good player. And I think he has run his time with Liverpool, honestly speaking. I think Liverpool will now go through what Barca have gone through. I think it'll be a time for them to again regenerate, recom, whatever, all of that stuff. But I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. He's an amazing player, and he will definitely bring a lot to Madrid. No questions on that. But I still think he is more suited for that Liverpool style of playing, which is high press, which Madrid don't really do. So I I don't see him fitting like a glove in that Madrid project. And that's not nothing against Trent. He's amazing, and Madrid is Madrid, and they have great players and who can literally score from half chances everywhere. So he'll definitely bring a lot of energy to that team. Um, but I just again, I don't think Madrid play the way Liverpool plays, which actually unlocks strengths. But I'll pass it on to Tom.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, hopefully you're right, Dev, because he's absolutely a tremendous player. I think what he brings, the value that he gives you from that fullback position, only Kimmich can do that, right? So they're very similar in that regard. That both are chance creation monsters, and they can actually pull a rabbit out of their hat at any given time. Now, how does that click with the rest of the Real Madrid squad? We don't know. The reality is, Trent is a better defender than people give him credit. I think, because he's the way Liverpool play, he's often left in these isolated scenarios. He has to defend one on one. He has to take on the winger a lot more than the average fullback should in an isolated one versus one scenario. So I think that goes against him. Now, can Madrid prevent that from happening? I don't know. They've been very shaky defensively, and the truth is, players like Valverde or Tchouameni or Camavinga, they will have to run for him a bit at times as well. I think Madrid do have these players with great engines who can actually make up for quote unquote Trent's deficiencies a bit. Now, do they want to do that? And how does Trent change the face of Madrid? Because usually when you think of Carvajal, when you think of players that have occupied those fullback areas for Madrid, they were very up and down players who could go and overlap, who can actually be a wide presence and then put crosses in. Trent is more of a deep lying playmaker. He's not really an overlapping. He's not a wing back.
He's
He's a
not.
yeah. He's similar to Kunde in that regard, because Kunde also likes to stay a bit deeper and then put the crosses in right into the box. Trent can do that, times 10, but he's not a wide presence. Van Lee, I think, I'm terrible defense. I think his defensive flaws are much overstated. I think he's not an elite defender. He's not, but at the same time, I think he's about the average. He's not as bad as people make it out to be. He's not, elite. He's not going to be a Van Dijk or an Araujo or something like that. He's nowhere near that. Let me get that. That's not the question. But he's just put into these situations a lot more than he's meant to be. Yeah, go for it.
No, but my point was, in this, I think this comment is I find interesting because I think if Madrid change and they get
Yeah.
Alonso, I think Trent will be far more effective than he will be under Ancelotti. That's just my personal belief, given the way Alonso likes to play, and the blueprint of that is mostly Leverkusen. So it's not that there's anything else to go by, but I personally just feel that if that happens, Trent will be a far more fit in the system than Ancelotti.
Yeah, I do have to say that I'm not too familiar with Alonso's fullbacks. I'm not sure how he utilizes them, so I won't speak much about that. But we do know about Alonso's resume. We do know about his CV. We know how big of a mind he is, and compared to Ancelotti, he's just a better tactician, better strategist. I think he cares more about those things in the first place. Ancelotti, we've heard so many times from himself that he's, he just lets the players do their own thing and then sees what happens, right? So when we talk about no tactics thing, I think Ancelotti does fit that criteria a bit more than someone like Flick or someone like Alonso, especially. Alonso is a very strategical mind, I would say. And I think if Madrid do get him, and the links are always going to be there, and it seems to be a thing that can happen actually in the future, in the near future, I think that will be a great boost for them. Unfortunately, I do have to say that he would be a massive appointment, at least looking at it, on paper. And then if they do get Trent, that is very dangerous for everyone, not just us. Oh, well, we'll see. I mean, there is a way to exploit Trent. Obviously, having players like Rafinha and Balde, they can be more than Trent can handle defensively. Hopefully, that ends up being true. I mean, Vanley, you mentioned Vinicius. I don't think I would fancy any defender against Vinicius. Yes, Araujo has been great at stopping him at times, but Vinicius only needs one chance to get past you, and then that's it. And if you put a defender into a position that he has to defend a Vinicius 10 times in a row in 1 versus 1s, he's not going to win those 10 times, all 10 times, no matter who he is, right? So I think from that perspective, Trent is he's often in a very ungrateful position to begin with, and that's where all the shouts of his defensive fragility stem from mostly. But yeah, that's kind of my view, Dev.
All right,
Um,
let's talk a little bit of the match, and then we have to go and talk about that legal thing, and then we are running out of time. So I just want to take you guys through the XG dynamics. You can see 3.29. We didn't widely outscore our XG, which we do in most of our games. So this was mostly like within. Okay, we scored the ones that we were supposed to score, which is great. Do want to call out the small cameo Pau Victor played. I think again, Ferran Torres 22 goals, 8 in La Liga. I think he's at 8, and Danny Olmo was at 7. Almost like a redemption season for Ferran, and one can actually think about maybe building the next season with him in mind, hopefully, and him going to do better things than what he has done this season. That'll be so amazing to look into. Now,
hmm.
if you look at possession, pass accuracy, long pass share, what have you, a game where we dominated. And dominated with a weekend lineup. Though people can say that Osasuna also had a weekend lineup, so maybe that cancels it out or what have you. Do want to call out that here the highline wasn't that high in many cases, and you can see there have been drops. So I've not seen like this level of fluctuation of highline from Barca. Generally from Flick is a bit rigid if I look at the data, but in this game he adjusted quite a lot of times where the highline will be positioned, and that again that adds to that whole tactics discussion that we were having, that are the tactics or not tactics, but dominating anything that that hits your eye in all the data stats.
This mostly what we would expect from the eye test. I mean, it's Barca are just crushed Sasuna, right? And that's why the legal case that we were going to discuss next is just so ridiculous to me. I mean, Osasuna had no chance of winning this game, and now they want to get the 3 points through other means outside the pitch. It's a bit all but I don't know, just a bit. I mean, if the game was neck and neck, and then Inigo was the deciding factor, I mean, I would get the complaint, but they had no chance. Right? They had no say in this game. They had no agency in this game, and the data confirms that. The eye test confirms that as well. The possession was there. The XG was there. I mean, the XG graph is ridiculous, right? Osasuna have a flat line basically, and we are just going up and up and up. So it just shows you that they were not in the game at all, almost not at all. Right, the second half that they did get a little lease of life. They did get some hope here and there because we also kind of dropped off a bit. We didn't really push as hard anymore at times, but I mean, this was just a one team in
Look
the
at the
pitch,
attacks per
basically.
minute at the end of the game, man. It's between 75
Yeah,
to 90. Look at the team running even at this
yeah,
juncture. This is
yeah.
something very new that, like, I would say I would credit Flick with a lot of this, because we often seen this trend in many games, and that's really that's worth admiring, with the kind of players that he has right now, and
Hmm.
what we've been able to do with them. So yeah, pretty interesting. And yeah, we'll cut back to the legal thing, because that's much more obviously interesting and, controversial and all that. But what a game! It was lovely to watch Barcelona play that well,
Yeah.
and people enjoyed the football. This is what I like the most in comments and, social media, that uh, uh, the banter is around that. It doesn't matter whether we're winning or not, whether we'll win a lot of trophies or not, but there's an overwhelming majority of the neutral fan base which says that, hey, this is a team to watch because they just play nice football, and it's
Hmm.
lovely to see them play football, right? And that's the biggest thing, I think, about this team. And what Barca has always you know said, but maybe not lived to in the last few years, is, it's not just about winning, but how we win. It's not just about playing, about how we play. This season they're actually focusing on the how we play, and that's coming out, and that's really made a lot of difference to how people perceive the team, the coach, and all have you. So just want to call that out. That's pretty interesting, from that perspective.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's cut back into what has happened on the legal side of things. Your lineup against Girona. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But let's quickly go through this, to understand what it actually means. And,
Right.
like, do we have a case? Do we not have a case? And if somebody wins, who wins, and so on and so forth? Because, it can be quite complex in terms of, how we look at the data and who has to say what. But if I just go through, what Osasuna's position is that, Barcelona fielded Inigo Martinez while he was ineligible under FIFA rules due to his withdrawal from Spain duty. So their legal
Hmm.
argument is the validity. Mr. Martinez was officially called up by Spain for the March international break. He did not report to the national team due to a claimed knee injury, but was not examined by the Spain national. And this is key. He was not examined by the Spain national medical team. There was no explicit clearance. There is no documented permission, apparently. I don't know, from the Spanish FA allowing him to return to the club action or waiving the 5-day restriction. It's called the 5-day rule. Timing. Spain's last match was March 26th. The match in question occurred on March 30, within the restricted window, which is 27 to 31st, right? So he couldn't have played during those 5 days. And the automatic ineligibility. Without formal FA clearance, Martinez was automatically ineligible for playing, right? That's Osasuna's legal case. FC Barcelona's defense is that, he was fully eligible to play because he was formally released from Spain duty before the international period began. What does that mean? Early release. Spain officially withdrew Martinez on March 17th. And this
Hmm.
date is important because if there is some paperwork that actually shows that, then Barca win. Before any matches took place. No duty equal to no restriction. Since he was released before joining the team, the 5-day rule does not apply. Now, here is where Laporta's legal things come into play. He's a lawyer, and he has often done it before. He will possibly play on that clause, right? That the rule does not allow because he was released before even he joined the team, because he never joined the team, right? He never
Right.
was, right? That's the legal loophole or clause that Barca is going with. And then there's this concept of implied consent, right? So the Spanish FA did not object to the player returning to the training or playing, which Barca is saying this constitutes tacit or implied permission, because had they had a legal case against him, they would
Yeah.
have objected, which there is no evidence of. Apparently, there's no objection. I don't know. This is what Barcelona's position or defensive position is. And then there's the medical justification, which is Barcelona's medical team declared Martin is unfit for international duty. There is no requirement under FIFA rules that the national team must inspect the player. So apparently,
Mm.
FIFA does not have, like, if the doctor has said it, then they've said it. There's no such rule where they have to inspect it again, and so on. So that's that, correct? But what does it mean if you do side by side comparison, correct? So favors Barcelona and non-favors Barcelona. So if there are 5 parameters, so let's say FIFA regulation text, that favors Osasuna. It doesn't favor Barcelona because by the rule of the book, 5 days, yeah, he shouldn't have played. National FA permission. We don't know whether there is any or not, or whether it's implied or not. Maybe somebody will come with some piece of paper somewhere and say, okay, there was something. I don't know. But for now, there is no written proof from a permission perspective. This favors Osasuna. Timing of withdrawal, right? Barca withdrew Inigo much before. So this actually favors Barca, right? So they can prove that. But then the precedence of medical clearance, there is no such precedence that Barca is playing with. But Barca has won things like this season, right? So that again favors Osasuna. So there are, if you look into it, if there are 5 parameters, 3 kind of favor Osasuna, 1 favors Barcelona, and 1 is on the hanging on the balance. So that's basically it. I mean, if somebody has more information on this, I would love to know because I don't know. But that's basically what I could very simplified, like after reading whatever, and not that I'm any legal ex. I'm absolutely not, right? But that's basically what happened. And in that case, the worst case scenario is that we can forfeit the points. We can, or there can be a sanction or what have you. So we'll get to know. But yeah, very open to hear your thoughts, guys, who are on this, and Dom, you too.
I don't think I have much to add there, Dev. I'm not versed in that. That's number one, but I do wonder, based on all that you said and the 5 parameters that you mentioned, if you had to guess, what would you say? Which way does this go ultimately? Barca's or Osasuna's? If you had to guess, like right now, off the top of your head,
Osasuna has a strong case. That's much I would say.
right? Okay, okay, so
Really
that's
strong
bad.
case.
And
But
and
but it's the
yeah,
same thing. Like also the league had a very strong case on the Olmo case as well, but they created there's no precedence,
right,
and then they
right.
won the injunction, right? So can happen. But if I go by the book of the law, right, and that's not like fairness or non-fair because we were forced to play during we shouldn't have been, the game shouldn't have been scheduled. There's so many things like ifs and buts. But if you go by that 5-day rule, then Osasuna has a case.
Hmm. Right. And then in the worst case scenario, they take the points away and they give it to Osasuna. What
Yeah,
happens
that's basically
actually?
what they're saying. That Osasuna
Right.
will get 3, and we will be docked 3 points.
Oh
Unless
wow.
there's more sanction that, okay, you failed, so Inigo Martinez cannot play another 5 games or whatever. I don't know. Weird things can happen. But the first one is that we will be docked points.
Right. It's so weird because when we announced the squad, which is usually
Nobody said
announced,
anything.
no one said anything. They were fine with Indigo being there, but then now that they lost, now okay, now we're gonna play the Indigo card
Yeah.
just because. Oh, yeah, it's a bit weird, and
It's
it
weird.
feels like
And
they're
to your point, like they would not have, they were outplayed, completely outplayed.
yeah, yeah.
So that'll make it even worse. So it is what it is. We can't do much about that. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole legal kerfuffle, guys. It's not that neither me or Dom are legal people, so don't hold
No,
our
yeah.
pointers in it. We just read like what you guys have read,
Hmm.
and like there are much more senior important legal people who know what this means, and we'll get to know anyways in a few days. So
Hmm. Hmm.
they generally don't take too long here. So hopefully in the week we'll get to know whether we are docking points or not, or what have you, and what that means. Okay, let's catch up against Girona, the team that we are going to go with. And somebody said this is their team. Kunde, Araujo, Kubarsi, Balde, Eric, Gavi, Gavi, Torres, Lewa, Rafinha.
Right.
Dom.
So let's see who was rested. Actually, Araujo could play because yes, he had rest. He could play potentially. Kubarsi also, if he's fit, if he's match sharp, he can play. Now the fullbacks are interesting because you want to rest Kunde, but we know that Fleck's not going to do that. So I think Kunde will play. Now Balde could get rested. Potentially, we have seen Jerry Martin actually start games sometimes ahead of Balde, despite Balde being a big part of yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. It could potentially happen. Now midfield is interesting because I don't think Pedri gets. No, Frankie was rested for a half, so I think he plays. I also think almost not playing, so I think Fermin could play ahead of Torre. And then Gavi could also play. Now, is Flick going to drop Pedri? That's the big question. Is he going to drop Pedri? It's a big ask, and usually I would say no. I think Pedri can get rotated, but not from the start. So I think Pedri, Frankie, and Fermin would play, and then forward line Lewandowski was arrested, right? Now Ferran is in good form, so that's his kind of his case. He's in good form. But I think Lewandowski kind of comes back into this lineup. Then you have Rafinha, who was rested as well. And then does he rest Lamine? I don't think he does. I don't think he will drop Lamine from the start. So I would say I'm edging towards that. Some sort of a combination of that. I mean, I do like this. This is an interesting lineup there from Devadathan. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But I don't think there's some things that
It's actually a
uh,
good, very interesting lineup.
it's a good lineup. It's interesting. There's a lot of rotation though.
Hmm.
Now we have seen Flick sometimes go gang ho, just rotate almost the whole squad at once. I don't think he'll do that again because that experiment was bad. It was against Osasuna of all teams, right? And then we lost 4-2. And we have just not seen him rotate the likes of Lamine and Pedri from the start as much. Now Lewandowski has had rest, so I think he comes back. Yes, and now Torre ahead of Furman. I don't know. I don't think so. So those will be my concerns, quote unquote. And Kunde, yeah, he doesn't rotate him much. But interesting. I mean, Girona are what, middle of the table somewhere. I'm not sure what exactly, 12, 13, 14, something like that. So they're on paper you could still go with a B team and still win. But yes, Atletico Madrid midweek, that's one concern to keep in mind. But then again, league is also critical, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, none of the games you can't like. It's just what it is. You lose one of these, they lose this game against Atleti, then then we have Dortmund coming up. So I don't think that all of them are must win, kind of must win, games, and especially if this appeal works and we have docked points. Then imagine how important this game becomes, because then we have lost the 3 point advantage that we have on Madrid, and we're back on equal terms, right? So it's going to be hard. And given that, because they will not, I don't think they will know the result by tomorrow. So what they will do is basically they will want to win the game so that
Yeah,
in case something happens, they have that buffer and they're still on point, they are level, right? So based on that, I think Flick's going to go with a strong lineup.
yeah.
Uh, Especially in the light of that legal scenario that is unfolding right now, the answer of which we obviously don't know as fans. Okay, big fan, guys. How do you define Gavi's profile featuring midfield? Could you name any player from the past that resembles Gavi's profile? We'll come back to that. But Dom, I did want to have your thoughts on Girona. What would you go with? Just to
The
finish
lineup.
that thought up.
Oh,
Yeah.
so take on go in goal. I think Balde, Kubarsi, Araujo, and probably Kunde because Ford's not going to play. Frankie, Pedri, Fermin, Rafinha, Lewandowski, Lamine, because
That's
that's
awesome.
realistic. Yeah, I think I went for not exactly what I would maybe go for exactly, but I think that's what we're gonna see. Likely
Probably,
see.
yeah. Yeah. So that's basically, I'm really surprised if, because he's also saying that he will rotate if required. So we'll see if he rotates. But the margins are very, very low. So uh, especially with this case happening, I don't know whether that will influence his thinking or not. But yeah, we'll get to know. But either ways, we're going to cover the game. So just do join us, and we can talk more about what happens and what the results are once the game is done. Okay, yes, Dom. Any player who resembles Gavi's profile?
Uh, Past players, I don't know. So Gavi, his profile, I think he's still a Pedri, similar to Pedri in some regards, similar to De Jong in some regards. A bit of mix of both with some tenacity and some energy there. I think he's a deeper player with great attacking instincts. Now, who would that player be? I don't know, honestly. It's a tough question to answer off the top of my head. But he's a deep lying controller, I would say. He's something like that. He's a player who can progress play, a player who's very tenacious in his dueling. Now, which players come to mind? I don't honestly. I would have to think about that. I can't really do these things off the top of my head.
But maybe
How-
we actually do something on this. We can look at the data. We can look at the games. We can look at the team that we are kind of building and come back with some points of view on what are the possible options. Because I don't think there's one answer to this question. I think there can be multiple kind of options that come up based on how things pan out, whether we buy new players or not, or how the team evolves. I think all of those will go into what his future profile is going to be. So we can absolutely come back, but it's a good question. It's a good question from that perspective. So, Praful, thanks for asking, and
Yeah,
we'll have a think about this. To be honest with you, right?
I
Because
know. Yeah, I mean,
just want to
he's
throw names out there, but just for the heck of it, because we don't know. Like, uh,
we've seen a lot of shouts on Verratti in the past. I think he is close to Verratti, but Verratti's not really a past player. He's still very much a present player. I don't know. All the players I would really have to think. I mean, I've seen in the past. I've seen shouts of Enrique even, and I guess he has some of that as well. He's not exactly Xavi or Iniesta. I think he's
no, he isn't.
we've seen a lot of comparisons of Pedri and Gavi being Xavi and Iniesta, but I don't think
Nah, I
there's
don't.
much of that in Gavi. I wouldn't really go down that path. But yes, Verratti's a good shout, but that's not really an old player, so I can't. I have to think. Really have to think. Yeah.
Okay, a lot of at least I think two or three people asked about Tony Fernandez. I think this will be our last question before we sign up for tonight, guys. Thoughts on Tony Fernandez? I think it's too early to say anything. I think he should play for a little bit more. And I think given the season, obviously, like we rated the B team, so the B team had nothing left, and then they had a good coach who also left, whatever. So obviously they have gone through a very tough season, and results haven't been that good. So I think just balancing that team out would be a good place for Tony Fernandez to look into right now. Because the other problem that I have, there are so many kids who have been promoted suddenly, and they're all growing at the same time. You do need to balance that a little bit. Do we need a Tony Fernandez right now with the team that we have? Probably no. Can we have him? Yeah, probably yes, we can. But do we need it right now? Maybe not. And I would say that one more season probably in with the B team before, if he's and then he starts seriously performing. Sure, why not? Like then he makes his way.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he's a massive talent. I see clips of him all the time because he just does really well. So he's one to look out for. He's one to keep an eye on. But at the moment, as Deb said, maybe not because we do have so many young players that this team needs a good balance of bet for the future and play for the present as well. So I think that's kind of the thing. But absolutely on paper and what we've seen from clips, I mean, he does seem really, really, really good.
He's a good kid. If PSG offer you 80 million for Gavi, do you take it? Like this is one of those questions. But I mean, practically speaking, financially, if anybody offers you 80 million for any player, you take it in this market. That's basically what it is, especially if you're Barca. But the thing is, it's never going to happen. Barca is never going to sell Gavi because it's a lot more sensitive from a brand perspective and what the club stands for and what Gavi stands for. So it's never going to happen. And I don't think Gavi is going to leave. He's quite pro Barca from that perspective. So I think conceptually, yes, these things may happen, but I don't think that in reality this will ever happen from that perspective because he'll be positioned as one of those faces of Barca, of this new Barca. And then you have all the Catalan and everything that comes into with Barcelona, that it's all behind that. So no, I don't think that's like it is realistic that it will happen. But for a club where Barca is, I mean, if you get 80 million for any player, you take it. Simple. Financially, yes, but practically, no.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. You have to look at it objectively without emotions because that's how business is done, right? And if Gavi is fine being a rotational piece behind Frankie, behind Pedri, and potentially being a bench player and then a rotational player, then maybe you can keep him. But then depends on how much he's earning, how happy he is, and then if he can't give you something that your starters give you, he can't give you anything additional to that. Then are we declining a 80 million offer for a bench player if we remove the emotions part? Because he's La Masia, we love him, we don't want to see him gone. But if you remove that factor, right, the emotions of it, you take that money, right? It's a bit heartbreaking to say, but if he's not a starter and he's just a rotational piece that's not lifting us to new levels or increasing our ceiling, and then I know in that scenario, 80 million becomes too attractive for Barca. So it's a bit tough to say.
Testegen or Chesney, whom do you prefer when fully fit? Now, there's another question. I don't know. Chesney's doing amazing this season, but I think I think Ter Stegen, when he comes back, he will play. I just think
Probably.
just the politics of the team and the way it is set up, I just don't see him gone. Because then it would have happened many years ago. I think there are many things that happen inside the team, inside the locker room that we are not aware of or available. So once again, maybe it's Chesney that whom we prefer because Chesney is good and he's been amazing this season. But I think once Ter Stegen comes back, whether we like it or not, he's starting games. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, very likely. Very likely. I mean, if that happens next season and he's fully fit and Flick wants to keep him and he actually stays at Barca, then yeah, sure. But if he comes back this season and he starts games, that would be a big red flag for me. So that's the only thing I'm hoping doesn't happen. But but
Yeah,
we'll
if you
see.
had just clear this season, and then I'll be happy. But I mean, once Ter Stegen is fully in, just given the squad dynamics, I don't
Mhm.
see how he doesn't start. He'll start as
Yeah,
long as he's playing for Barca. Anyway, guys, this was amazing. Thank you for joining. It's been lovely chatting up with you guys for about an hour or so on all topics and looking at the games and so on and so forth. We have a number of games coming up, and we'll also do a few previews. So we'll do the Dortmund game preview and the review. Plus, we will do Betis. Plus, we will do Girona. Plus, we will do the Copa game against Atleti. So
yeah,
there's a lot of games that
yeah.
we're going to cover. So do
Well,
join us. It'll be fun. It's boring otherwise if you guys don't join. Between me and Dom just talking to each other, that's no fun. So this is much better. So if you guys can join, that'll be awesome. And Dom, any final thoughts before we sign off?
as always, guys, I mean, there's 700 of you, 700 of you. So thank you so much for joining. Yeah, it's a pleasure to chat to you. If you could head to our channels and follow us across the channels on YouTube and even the blog, that would be so much appreciated. Oh, there's 700 of you. If 10% of you click on something and subscribe, that means the world to us. So please, please, please do check out Barca Football. We've been working very hard and we will keep working very hard and give you new content, improved content, some exclusive stuff's coming up hopefully very soon that I really hope you will enjoy and appreciate, as you always do. But yes, any bit of support helps, but just seeing you here and you sticking with us for an hour and 10 minutes, that means the world as well. So thank you, and we do hope that you are enjoying this format and our chats, our opinions. You don't have to agree with our opinions. That's
Yeah,
absolutely fine. We're not asking you to be these yes men who just nod to everything that we say. By all means, disagree. Tell us we're wrong. We love to hear your opinions and feedbacks on everything that you want to voice. So thank you again, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow again because we have a game tomorrow.
so we have a game. So we'll be back after the game and when we're talking about it. But till then, guys, stay safe. It's a beautiful weekend. Enjoy it with your families or friends or what have you. And till then, be Barca. Take care, guys.